your life. Okay, make sure that. See. I'm gonna put that metal curtain down there. Will you put that metal curtain down? Okay. It's weird seeing your reflection. Okay. Let's do some yoga. If you have something like a pillow or a block or some books or something to elevate your hips, it might be more comfortable. As the name of this reveals, we're going to be doing a little bit of a seated meditation during this yoga practice. So having something to sit up on, elevating your hips, will hopefully feel a little bit better in your body. You can always sit in a chair too. So if you have a chair or a couch or something in your body, you can always just sit on that, but it's time to sit on something. So elevating your hips a little bit will feel good unless you're really comfortable sitting on the ground and like cross-legged or on your knees. If that's really comfortable for you, and your knees almost touching the ground, then that's really cool. So let's go ahead and get started. Lie down in Shavasana, on your back, if that's comfortable. Laying down here, getting a little bit comfortable. If you gotta do any wiggles, go ahead. If you're feeling good, just feel the gravity pulling you down, pulling your body down. Feel the weight of your back if it's on the ground. Sinking into it here. Just notice, coming to stillness here, if anything comes up in your mind, go ahead and, if you can, acknowledge, maybe greet any thoughts or feelings, any sensations that come up. And knowing that having a still body, maybe a still mind, doesn't mean that nothing is going to come up. So, acknowledging whatever comes up. And then maybe starting to bring your attention to your breath. Noticing the inhales and the exhales in your nose or your mouth, maybe in your chest or your belly. Just noticing your natural breath right there. We'll just take one big deep breath together, filling up in through the nose, expanding through the chest and the belly. Filling up, and then opening the mouth and exhaling. If you want or need to do any more on your own, go ahead. Know that this is your practice. What I'm telling you is just an offering. And if it doesn't feel right for you, you don't have to do it that way or anyway. maybe try to notice your breath as you inhale, feeling it in the back of the throat. Seeing if you can feel on the inhales and the exhales, your breath all along your throat, maybe even into your lungs. Maybe noticing the vibration and the hum of your throat, the breath in your throat here. Like the start of Ujjayi breath, but not as aggressive. We'll just do a quick body scan here. From the top of your head all the way down to your toes. Just to notice if there's anything that's really calling your attention. And when we do our physical asana practice, if there's anything you need to modify for your body, if anything is calling your attention that's uncomfortable or feeling good. So from the top of your head, notice down your neck, front and back, and to your shoulders, the front of your chest, your back, shoulder blades, down your rib cage, through your belly, your abdomen, around your back, down through your hips, fronts and backs of your hips, thighs, front quad muscles, back hamstrings, down through your knees, to your shins, your calves, your ankles, your heel, along your foot, down to your toes, noticing through your fingertips, up through the palms and the backs of your hands, through your wrists, your forearms, your elbows, through the upper arms, fronts, biceps, the back, triceps, and then back up into your head. And maybe adding some movement now, wiggling your fingers and your toes. Maybe rolling through the wrists and the ankles. And then maybe reaching up over your head, stretching your arms up away from your feet for a nice long full body stretch. And then bending at the knees and drawing your feet closer to your butt. And then hugging those knees into your chest here. Little Apanasana. Knees to chest pose. You can wiggle side to side, draw circles on the ceiling with your knees, whatever feels good. And then keep bringing movement into your body here. Start adding more and more movement that you feel like you can rock back and forth along your spine from your head to your butt all the way up to a seat. Going up to a seat, cross-legged position, or sitting up on your knees. And this is a good time to grab that bolster, if you would like. Okay. Sound is echoey. It's always a little echoey in here.
Like a little closer than usual?
We'll see. See how it goes. Okay, so come into a seat. maybe up on your bolster or a pillow, or not anything. See what happens. And sitting here in the natural cross-legged position, whatever feels good, crossing your ankles or your shins, and sitting up tall. So really feeling your spine elongated here, shoulders over your hips, and your head on top of your spine here. You can bring your hands to your knees here, sitting up tall. And then we'll just do a few circles with the spine. So moving your shoulders, maybe the movement starting at your shoulders and wiggling around your hips, making a nice circle here around your hips as a base. You can start adding maybe some cat-cow, maybe chest forward or rounding back as you do those circles. Maybe using the push and pull of your hands on your knees, if that's where they are, to help you into this. And if there's any place that feels like you need more of a stretch, you can take a moment, pause, really stretch into it. But this should feel pretty good. If you feel any discomfort, maybe try something else or change the position of your legs. We'll go ahead and switch to the other side, other direction. Circles on the other side. Maybe rolling through your cat-cow shape, chest forward and rounding back. See if you can find those nice inhales, filling up and expanding through your chest and your belly. And then coming to stillness slowly. So making your circles smaller and smaller until you're back into your seat with a long spine, sitting up tall. Maybe closing the eyes here for a moment. Just notice what the movement did, if it did anything in your body or your mind. Trying to be aware of the movements itself during our physical practice and the effects afterward. Go ahead and open your eyes and switch the cross of your legs. Should be the awkward way now. Sitting up tall here, long spine, shoulders over your hips. And we'll start those circles again with your spine, whichever direction feels natural to you. Maybe rounding as you reach your back to the back. Maybe inhaling your chest forward as you come forward. And finding anywhere in between. Maybe feeling like your spine is a post grounded at your hips. And it can be as flexible or as stiff as you want it to be. Still feeling grounded through your seat, but maybe flexible through your spine. I'm going to go ahead and switch the direction of those circles to the other side. Really breathing into these circles if you can. Filling up and expanding on the inhales. And a slow exhale. And then gently letting those circles get smaller and smaller. Here. Coming back into the seated position. Tiny circles to the end. Really using those tiny circles to find the tall seat. And then coming through stillness. Maybe closing the eyes here. Just absorbing anything that comes up. Noticing and acknowledging any thoughts, any feelings, or any sensations. And maybe opening the eyes here. You can keep your hips elevated or go ahead and take your pillow away. And then coming to Baddha Konasana, bound angle pose, bringing the soles of your feet together, drawing them as close as you want to towards your hips or as far away. Making a diamond shape with your legs, knees fall away from the hips. Sitting up tall here, winding along the spine. And then wrapping your fingers around your toes, maybe interlacing your fingers, wrapping around your toes, really gluing your feet together here, pressing your feet together. As you reach your chest forward with a long spine, maybe reaching your chest to your feet, folding over with a long spine here. Reaching the crown of your head forward, finding length. Maybe finding a stretch through your hips or your inner thighs. Maybe wiggling or moving a little bit here, easing into the stretch. Breathing into it here. Taking a big full inhale. And as you exhale, go ahead and round into it. Let your back round and your head drop any amount. Maybe finding a moment of stillness in this pose. Still breathing as fully as you can. Maybe drawing the breath into your lungs directly. Come up with a long spine, or go ahead and roll up if you are rounded. Taking time to stretch to the back, stacking one vertebra on top of the other. And then go ahead and maybe cross the ankles or roll over to one side to come into an all fours position. All fours, tabletop, quadruped, whatever you want to call it. All fours, hands and knees. And the classic placement is your wrists under your shoulders, your knees under your hips, your feet straight back behind your knees. But as always, everybody is different, so every pose is going to be a little bit different. And find whatever variation works for you. Maybe your fingers don't have to face forward, face them out if your shoulders are a little tight. Maybe a little wider than hips width distance if your hips are really tight and sore. Taking a moment here to make this pose your own. And we're just going to do a few cat-cows here. We're going to do the awkward cat-cows like we did last week, where our exhales are this position here, the long spine. And you broaden through your shoulders to really find length through the spine. Broaden through the back of your shoulders, pressing into your hands, reaching your tail away from your head. Finding a long spine here. And then as you inhale, draw the chest forward, the tailbone up, let the belly start to drop, inhaling into cow. Expanding through the front of the body. And then exhale back to your long spine tabletop position. And then we're going to inhale into the cat, rounding your back, the sky expanding through the back body. And then exhale back through tabletop, the long spine. Inhaling through cow, chest forward, tailbone up. Exhale through tabletop, long spine. Inhale through cat. And then exhaling back to that long spine. And then coming into child's pose, drawing those toes together back behind you, maybe near your knees, a little further apart than hips width distance. Sitting back on your heels first, finding the weight through your hips, and then reaching your chest and your hands forward, any amount. You can always have a different foot or knee placement. Knees closer or wider, toes closer or wider. Letting your head drop down to the ground, maybe. And then start walking your fingers and your arms over to the left. Maybe to the edge of your mat, maybe off your mat. Walking both hands over to the left side of your mat. Staying in this child's pose position and seeing if you can get a nice stretch through the side, the right side and the right shoulder. And breathing into it here. Sinking deeper into your hips. Letting gravity pull you down here. Then on your next exhale breath, get ready. And on the inhale, move your hands back through center. Walk your hands back to the center of your mat. And taking a moment in this regular child's pose, extended child's pose here. Notice the effects. Maybe your right side is feeling longer than your left. And let's remedy that. Start walking your hands over to the right. Both hands over to the right side of your mat, maybe off your mat. Bring some length through your spine, letting your hips be heavy here. Go ahead and breathe into this stretch through the left side. And you're noticing, acknowledging anything that comes up. If you've got a lot of distractions around or distracting thoughts, just notice it. At the bottom of your next exhale, get ready to start moving back through the center as you inhale. And back through, walking your hands to the center for child's pose. And taking just a moment in child's pose here. Grounding down, connecting your head to the ground. And as you're ready, go ahead and look forward at your hands and start to press the palms and the fingers, the fingertips into the ground, shifting your hips forward slightly and tucking the toes under. You're kind of come into a downward facing dog, lifting the hips up to the sky, pressing into the entire palm and the fingers here. Maybe spreading out your hands to match with distance. And maybe spreading out your feet to match with distance. Having a wide stance, downward facing dog as we come into this pose here. And go ahead and have some movement. If you want to pedal your feet, if you want to sway your hips, if you want to maybe shrug your shoulders up to your ears. And then instead of dropping your shoulders, shrugging the shoulders up to the ear, and then can you draw them further apart by pressing so much into your hands that you feel like your armpits are hollowing. So broadening through the shoulders without dropping the shoulder balls in the sockets. We want to grind them against each other if we can avoid it here by finding that broadness from the arms, pressing so much in your hand that you feel the triceps and the back arm muscle engaging here to hollow out your armpit. And if you want to walk your feet closer together for a normal downward facing dog stance, you can always stay wide. Taking one more breath here. And then looking forward at your hands. Slowly start to walk your feet up to meet your hands. Keeping your feet hips width distance or wider for this first forward fold. Bending through the knees to get your bellies on the thigh. And once your belly is connected to your thighs, then you can think about maybe engaging through the back of the legs to finding some length here. A nice stretch of the hamstrings. And letting your head hang heavy, shaking it. Yes, shaking it no. Maybe bringing your hands right above your knees on your thighs and really finding some length through your spine here. Maybe bringing your elbows to your thighs right above your knees and starting to ease into this forward fold a little bit differently. Bending through the knees here. If you have a lot of lower back stuff going on, you can always stay here. If the forward fold with all of your weight hanging over your legs is too much. But if it's not, go ahead and bring your hands back down to the ground to your forward fold. Just for one more breath. And then on your next inhale, start to draw your chest forward and up, bringing your spine in line with the ground, fingertips to the outer sides of your shins, and really draw your chest forward. Feeling the weight more maybe in the balls of the feet, but you can rock back and forth to find where you feel most stable. Drawing that chest forward, taking a nice breath in here, and then exhale here. And then inhale all the way up to standing, maybe drawing your arms out and up overhead. Arms in line with your ears, maybe. And then exhale, bringing your hands down through your center. And by your side. And pressing into your feet. Standing in your Tadasana or your mountain pose here. Standing position. Finding energy by grounding down through your feet, engaging through your legs. Releasing the butt muscles slightly here so that you can draw your hip bones closer to your low ribs. And then expand through the chest, reaching your sternum or the center of your chest up to the sky. And then letting your neck be long here, looking forward. Drawing your arms down towards the ground. Then inhale, sweeping your arms out and up overhead. And exhale, bend your knees, hinge at your hips, coming to a forward fold. And inhaling for that half lift. And then exhale to your forward fold again. Coming through that half lift, inhaling, maybe sweeping your arms out, and then coming up to standing with arms overhead. Urdhva Hastasana. And then exhaling, maybe your palms to your center, and reaching it down by your side. I'm going to come into a modified sun salute A, so you know it's correct A. Inhaling, arms out and up overhead. Exhaling, hinging forward, bending your knees slightly, coming through that forward fold. Inhale for that half lift, maybe fingertips to shins. And then exhale, plant your hands on the ground and step back to a plank position. Holding this plank, knees up or down. Shifting forward slightly, and then coming into your version of a half push-up, the low part of a push-up. It can be chaturanga with your elbows tucked in, shoulders rolling away from your ears, or it can be a regular bottom of a push-up, and then go ahead and drop your chest all the way to the ground. Maybe walking your fingertips back so that they're in line with your nipples. Setting up for our low cobra here, pressing into the tops of the feet into the ground, pressing your hips into the ground. Inhale, peeling your chest up off the mat. Maybe hovering the hands if you'd like. One more breath here. And then plant the hands back down. Bringing your hips up and back through a child's pose here, hips back. And then tucking those toes under and coming back into your downward facing dog. Taking a breath here. See if you can, without moving your hands or your feet, draw your chest closer to the ground, closer to your feet. Pressing into every finger. Engaging through the legs. Reaching your hips to the sky. Hollowing out those armpits. Go ahead and look forward in between your hands. And then at the bottom of your next exhale, step, walk, or jump your feet to meet your hands. Inhaling for that half lift, fingertips to shins or outer shins. Then exhale, fold. Coming up through that half lift position, maybe arms reaching out to come up all the way to standing, arms overhead. And then exhale, your arms and your hands back through center and to your side. Staying here for a moment, maybe closing the eyes. Noticing how you feel. Notice what you're thinking about. We'll do that one more time. Sticking with the options we just did, or if you need more, I'll give the options for more strengthening poses. Always know to take the options that work for you. Inhaling your arms up overhead. Exhale, hinge forward, folding to your forward fold. Inhale for that half lift. And then exhale, plant your hands, step back to your plank position. Knees up or down, shoulders drawing away from each other. And then maybe coming to your half push-up, knees up or down. And then inhaling into your low cobra, or if you want to roll the top of your feet, inhaling into your upward facing dog, just your hands and feet on the ground. Inhaling a deep breath into your low cobra or your upward facing dog, broadening through the collarbones. And then as you exhale, find your way back to downward facing dog. And taking a breath in your downward facing dog. And looking forward in between your hands. Maybe bending the knees slightly here. And at the bottom of your next exhale, step, walk, or jump your feet to your hands. Inhaling for that half lift. Then exhaling, fold. Inhaling, maybe sweeping the arms out and up, coming up to standing with a long spine. And exhale, draw your hands down through center, either side of your hips. Pressing through your feet here, finding your mountain pose. And then inhale, drawing those arms out and up overhead. Exhale, hinge forward, coming into your forward fold. Inhale for that half lift. And then exhale, draw your hands down to the ground. Go ahead and step your right foot back, coming into this lunge position. And then spinning your right heel to the mat and maybe turning those toes in slightly here. We're setting up for a warrior two position. Maybe your left heel is in line with your back right arch. Your heel is further away, your toes turned in just slightly. Bending through that left knee, maybe stacking the knee over the ankle. And then maybe drawing your right arm up alongside your right ear to help spin you all the way up to your warrior two position. You can always stay with your hands on the ground if you don't want to come up. But if you do, and you are up, pressing your hands away from each other, spreading out your fingertips, drawing those shoulders away from each other. Maybe bringing your hands to your hips, and then maybe doing a little self-adjustment to bring the top of the palm of your left hand on top of your left thigh, and start to press your thigh slightly away from you, and then go ahead and grab to the bottom of your left thigh with your right hand, and sort of make this twisting motion, just ever so slightly, pressing your top left thigh away as you draw the bottom left thigh towards you. It's a little bit of that spinning action. And see if you do that while you have a really strong back right leg, if you feel more alignment. And then drawing those arms back up to shoulder height. Maybe looking over those left fingertips, just looking forward. And go ahead and bring your hands to your hips and straighten out that left front leg. Maybe popping up onto the heel, drawing those toes up to the ceiling. Slight bend in the knee to turn your entire left leg in to the left so that you're facing the side. Toes both facing the left side. Or I guess it's the right side. And standing tall here, maybe your hands on your hips. Really finding some length through your spine. Drawing your chest forward, and then bend, slight bend in your knees as you start to draw your hips back and your chest forward, coming into a wide leg forward fold. Maybe drawing your hands down to the ground and standing here with a long spine. Or if this feels nice for you and you want to fold any deeper, you start walking your hands back to be in line with your feet. You can always have a slight bend in your knees here, wherever you want to go, taking your variation. And breathing into it. Drawing that breath in through the nose, expanding through the belly and the chest. One more breath here. And as you inhale, start to walk your hands forward, easing your way out of it, coming up with a long spine. So pressing your hands to the ground, finding a long spine, bending slightly through the knees, bringing your hands to your hips, and then coming all the way up through standing. Turning your entire left leg back to the front. Now go ahead and bring your palms down to the ground on either side of that foot and step that left foot back to a high plank. You can just press back to downward facing dog, or you can flow through whatever your version of a vinyasa or your half push-up. Inhaling into your low cobra or upward facing dog. And then finding your way on your exhale to your downward facing dog. And start to bring your right foot forward, drawing that right knee into your chest, and then stepping it in between your hands. Go ahead and spin that left back heel to the ground and walk those left toes in towards your right foot slightly. Just checking in, see if you want to have your right heel in line with your back left arch. Maybe keeping your hand on the ground here. Maybe drawing your knee above your ankle. Seeing if you can get the weight into the heel here. If you want to come up, inhaling your left arm in line with your left ear, and then coming all the way up to standing, torso upright in your warrior two position on the right side. Breathing here, drawing your hands away from each other, maybe in line with your shoulders. Pressing so much through that back left leg, finding so much engagement. And we'll just do that self-adjustment on this side. So bringing your hands down to your hips. And then the right palm on top of your right thigh. The left palm underneath your left thigh. And then just that slight spinning motion, drawing that top of the right thigh away from the front and drawing the bottom of that right thigh in towards the front. So spinning ever so slightly to draw maybe that butt, the right butt, just slightly underneath. And then bringing your hands back to your hips, drawing your hands out again to the side, maybe in line with your shoulders. And just breathing here in your warrior two position. Maybe looking forward at your right fingers, maybe looking to the side in line with your chest. One more breath. And then bring your hands to your hips. Straighten out that front right leg, popping up on those toes and turning that entire right leg over in line with your left toes. We're going to do another wide leg forward fold here. You can stay with the option you did before, or if you want to interlace your fingers behind your back here, bringing the heels of your hands, or right at the wrists, together back behind you. So interlacing your fingers and keeping the heels of your hands glued together. Keeping a slight bend in your elbows here as you start drawing your elbows closer to each other, broadening through the chest. Inhaling your chest up with a long spine, bending your knees slightly to hinge at your hips into your wide-legged forward fold. Any amount. Bringing your hands down to the ground or keeping them interlaced back behind your back. And if you want to lift your hands off your back, if you have them interlaced behind you, you can start to reach your interlaced hands up to the sky, keeping the heels of the hands together, a slight bend in your elbow, drawing your elbows together behind you. Reaching your head towards the ground, any amount. Taking a nice long breath here. Inhaling. Slow exhale. And then bring your hands to your hips, wherever you are. Inhaling halfway lift, long spine, torso parallel to the ground, slight bend in the knees to inhale all the way up. Spinning that entire right leg over to the right. Then go ahead and plant the palms of your hands down to the ground. Stepping that right foot back to a plank. You can go straight into your downward facing dog, or you can flow through, if you need another vinyasa, to your half push-up on the exhale. Inhaling your way to low cobra, upward facing dog, and then exhaling back into your downward facing dog. Bringing that right knee back into your chest. And then planting the right shin on the ground, your right knee behind your right wrist, and your right foot and ankle, and just finding the natural placement of it. And then start sinking your left leg back behind you maybe a little bit more. And then once it's as far back as it can be, go ahead and untuck those toes. If you have that pillow and you would like, bring it underneath your right hip for a little bit of support in your half pigeon pose here. You can keep that right ankle in close to your left hip, or you can reach it forward if you have very open hips. But keeping it in closer is always my best option. Make it your own. Maybe look back at the left leg and try to keep it in line with the left hip. It doesn't have to be, but whatever feels good in your body. And then reaching your chest forward, sitting up tall here. And then exhale, go ahead and fold over that right leg, any amount. Bringing your elbows to the ground first and easing into this. If this feels horrible, you can always just come to a cross-legged seated position. If it doesn't feel right for your body, take any different shape. Pigeon or half pigeon pose sometimes isn't right for every body, or might not be the right option for you in this moment. So listen into what your body needs. But if it's feeling good here in this pigeon, go ahead and walk your hands forward. Maybe if you need a little bit more Maybe drawing your head down to the ground. Just breathing here for a moment. Just notice as you spend a little bit of time here, if you're in pigeon, if you can relax a little bit through the leg muscles and let gravity draw you down deeper through the hips. Easing into it. Taking one more breath wherever you are. And then maybe tucking those toes under, the left toes under, walking your hands back closer to your right leg, pressing your hands into the ground, tucking those left toes under, and then maybe pressing up into a three-legged downward facing dog with your right leg reaching to the sky. And then go ahead and open those hips, just do a few circles, whatever feels good for you. You can always just come back to downward facing dog if that feels good, or a few circles one direction and then the other direction if you want. And then coming back through downward facing dog, drawing that left knee into your chest, and then putting the left knee on the ground behind your left wrist, and then finding the placement, maybe flexing through that left foot, and then finding the placement of that left foot in towards the hip, or more parallel with your shin, and then drawing that right foot back, bringing the knee to the ground, untucking those toes, but the top of your foot is pressing into the ground. Maybe taking a look back at your leg and make sure that that placement feels okay. Pressing into your hands, puffing that chest forward. As always, you can put something underneath your left hip, or you can just come into a cross-legged position if you know this isn't right for you. But if it is right for you and it feels good, drawing your chest forward for one more breath, and then walking your hands forward if you need a little bit more. Maybe your elbows come to the ground. Maybe you breathe here. Maybe you can walk your hands forward and it feels good to bring your head to the ground. Taking whatever variation works for you. And breathing into it. Noticing and acknowledging any thoughts, any feelings, or any sensations that come up in whatever position you are. Just taking one more breath here. And then pressing your hands into the ground, walking your hands back to your leg. Maybe tucking those right toes under. And maybe pressing back into downward facing dog, three-legged with your left leg high. And maybe a few circles if you want, one direction. On the other. Maybe your hips crack like one. And coming back through stillness, planting both feet and both hands on the ground to your last downward facing dog. And then bring your knees to the ground. And we're going to come into a seat. Maybe sitting on your heels is comfortable. Maybe elevating the hips while you sit on your heels is comfortable. Maybe cross-legged position is comfortable. So really taking whatever shape you can be comfortably seated for a few minutes. Really finding some stillness here. Starting off with your shoulders stacked over your hips and finding a long spine. But You can always find whatever variation works for you. If you need to be a little further back or a little further forward, finding whatever works for you. Palms on the knees, on the legs, on the lap, palms face up, palms face down, whatever works for you. Finding a seated position here where you can be comfortable and still. Maybe closing the eyes here. Maybe taking a deep breath in, filling up, expanding. Exhaling, letting it go. Noticing and acknowledging anything that comes up in your mind or your body. Can you spend just a few moments here with your own company? Maybe sending yourself some greeting. Maybe sending yourself some gratitude for doing your practice on a journey to mindfulness. Traditionally, the physical asana or yoga poses that we practice are working towards coming into a meditation. That might not be how you see it, and that's totally fine. It might not be what you want to do. That's totally fine. But maybe try it out. Maybe sitting here with yourself. Maybe greeting yourself again. This time, like you would an old friend. A warm greeting to yourself. Acknowledging your own existence here. And then sending some gratitude to yourself for all that you do. Noticing in this moment if there's anything you can give yourself. It might not be the first thought that comes to your mind. Maybe dwell on it for a minute. Notice if there's anything you can give to yourself in this moment. Whether it's acknowledgement, whether it's love, whether it's gratitude. And maybe give it to yourself. Accepting what you need from yourself graciously. Sitting with it. Sitting in your own company, with your own company here. Noticing and acknowledging anyone else here in this yoga practice, doing this together, virtually, making virtual space together. Just as you would notice and acknowledge and thank anyone else for joining, bring it back to yourself. One more time, notice and acknowledge and send thanks to yourself. Be bringing your attention back to your breath. Coming back into your physical body, Taking some deep breaths, maybe wiggling a little bit through your hands and your feet. If this is a very comfortable position for you, you're welcome to stay here. But if you'd like, we're going to take a short Shavasana, lying down on our backs. If that's comfortable, maybe on your side or your stomach if your back's not comfortable. But I would recommend a little bit of a supported fish Shavasana variation where you can elevate your shoulders. If you have a pillow, maybe putting it underneath your shoulder blades and laying on top of it. It can be to the side or it can be long ways. And just finding a comfortable position, lying down, maybe a little bit of a heart opener here. If you have a really long pillow that you're laying on top of, maybe bringing your butt to the edge and then maybe tucking your tailbone slightly so that you can have your whole back on that pillow. Yeah. I'm just setting up here, wiggling, getting some getting comfortable here. Whatever that looks like for you. Just giving yourself 1 minute to absorb all of the good yoga you did. Letting your hands fall away from your body. Letting your feet roll apart from each other. Just breathing here. Releasing the muscles around your eyes and your face. Releasing the muscles around your mouth. Unclenching the jaw. Letting your tongue fall away from the roof of your mouth. Letting gravity here sink you deeper into the ground. You can always stay here as long as you want or need, but if you're ready, start wiggling your fingers and the toes, rolling through the wrists and the ankles, bringing some movement back into your body. Maybe walking your feet towards your hips, maybe bringing one arm up along your ear, just rolling over to one side. And pressing your way up to a seated position, cross-legged or whatever's comfortable for you. Maybe bringing your hands, palms together, maybe rubbing them just for a moment, feeling some frictional warmth. And then maybe pressing one palm over your chest, over your heart, and then the other palm on top of that. Pressing in to yourself and your heart here. Noticing and acknowledging yourself. From a place of respect, I notice and acknowledge all of you, both in person and virtually. Or namaste. All right. Thank you, beautiful model, Elliot.
Thank you.
And thank you virtually for showing up. This is always a really fun Tuesday morning class. I'm sorry if it sounds echoey. I try to minimize it with a microphone, but this room is pretty echoey. I'll see if there's anything else I can do to make it a little less echoey. And as always, these virtual classes are free or by donation. If you have and would like to donate via Venmo at EvWeezer, I'll post in the description below how to do that at EvWeezer. And 50% of those donations go to a different charity each week, and 10% go to the Buckeye Tree Lodge for letting us use this space. And then the other 40% goes to my yoga education, so I can learn to better teach you. And yeah, thank you all for joining. If you have any recommendations or anything, send it in the chat. I'll post my website in the chat if you want to connect that way. And yeah, thank you for sending all the love. Nice to see you, Leah and Amy and Gary. Not sure what's going on in the chat, but welcome. Good to see you. And have a great day.